welcome back to Art and Soul. My name is Mike Severin. I'm glad you could join me again today. We've been working on a sea turtle here the last couple of weeks, and hopefully tonight we can kind of get that wrapped up for you and move on to a new painting next week. It's always fun and exciting to work on a new painting. What we've done is we started out with our background with our deep blues, our phthalo blues, phthalo green, light up here white titanium, and we've just feathered that out to where it's showing that the white light source is coming from up above, shining down onto the turtle. Now you're going, hey, that's not the way the turtle looked last week. Well, what I did is I took the liberty of working a little bit more on him, and I'll go through and show you what I did. It's just a lot of repetition involved, and I didn't want to take up your time with you watching me do little paint strokes. So I'll go through over it, exactly what I did. Last week we did this orange and the yellow here with the burnt sienna highlighting on the fin, and just a little bit over here that we did. As we were leaving the show last week, I had talked about that we wanted to start doing the shell here, and what I did since last show in my studio is I took and went with the phthalo blue with the white, and so it gave a light phthalo blue here, which is basically the same lights or the same colors that you would have reflected in from the surrounding ocean, as well as the darks down below. And I used the phthalo blue as well as some purple down here on the belly of the turtle. Finished up with these two fins here, the exact same way as what I showed last week on the fin. The only difference is I added in just a little bit of some green, and I'll show you how I did that in a second. I'll mix that up. And then I did the same thing with the greens on the head of the sea turtle, and just kind of blocked in his eye where it would be there so that we can do that. So that's pretty much where we're at from last week and what I've done since. So what we're going to do today is we're going to be doing a lot of the highlight stuff where it actually brings it more to life, and I think you'll see that it's going to make a big difference in the way it looks. So the colors that I'm working with today, same as what it was last week. We have the cad yellow, we have the cad orange, we have titanium white, burnt sienna, phthalo blue, and our purple here. I have my odorless paint thinner that I always use, and I would really recommend using the odorless paint thinner because it makes a huge difference in your house, whether or not the smell. People get quite annoyed with the regular paint thinner. So I would suggest using the odorless paint thinner. So what we're going to do is to do our highlight colors here, we're going to be mixing up some of the orange and the yellow here with the titanium white. So I'm just going to tap in here to my yellows, bring in some of the orange in, more still to the yellow side, but I wanted to lighten it up a little bit, so we'll bring in the titanium white into it, maybe just a little more orange into it. And this is one thing that I do that some artists do, some don't. I do a lot of mixing on the picture itself rather than on the palette. There's some that go, oh, it's one part white, one part orange, one part. I don't separate it out like that. I just it's more of a feel and how it looks when it gets onto the screen or onto the canvas. So we have our paint, and we're just going to go right along the edge, and see, I can see right away that that's not nearly light enough for what I'm wanting. So we'll grab some more titanium white. We want this to really be showing right on the leading edge here the brightness of the surface where the sun is coming through. As we're going across here, just catching just the leading edge of that fin. And I brought up, or was talking about blocking in on the first show, and I'd like to kind of revisit that for just a second, because a lot of times I'll see paintings of characters or of animals or whatever, and they'll have a real hard edge where they've just taken like a pencil and made a mark around. If you notice when I'm doing this, I'm taking and going from the edge and pulling it in. And what it does is it still gives you a good edge, but it doesn't look quite as like you just took a pencil and marked it out. It actually looks much better. So as you can see, I'm just going across here, just heading where the light might be hitting the most, and we'll do the same thing across the head of the turtle here. And I can't stress enough the importance of doing it by look. A lot of times people are up here painting and it looks one way, but most of the time the average viewing distance, they say, is 6 foot away. And if you step back from the picture, you can actually, it looks totally different than what it does if you're up close. So don't hesitate to step back from your work every now and then, just to kind of get a feel and see how it looks. So as you can see, I've done that. Now what I do, and there's blending brushes to do this, but I like just taking my finger and pulling that down. It just makes a little, I like the feel of it, and it to me it just adds a little more smoothness to it than what you could with a regular blending brush. So we've done that leading edge there. We could actually add in just a little bit more maybe on that back fin, and maybe just a few little touches, and that's about all. I don't want to do a whole lot down here on this back fin, because this would be pretty much covered up, but maybe a few more little pops of color here. Yeah, I'm liking that a little better there. So now that we've done that, now what I want to do is come in with straight titanium white. And a lot of artists say, oh, I don't want to, it's not good to have straight white. But if you notice, I didn't even take and clean my brush. The reason why is because I still have some of that residue that's there from those light yellows that I put in to begin with. And this, all we're doing is just putting just a little bit more of a color pop that's right out there on the edge. And it doesn't have to be everywhere. It just needs to just be enough there to where it really accents that out. And I'll do the same across the top of the head here. I was talking to somebody here over the weekend, and we were talking about this show, and they were excited to see it happening, and how did you get the courage up to do that? And before I get into that, I'm going to grab some phthalo blue with some white, and I'm going to highlight right across the top of the shell to really bring that out and make that pop a little better there. Anyway, what I started to say is, in talking to them, I said, you know what? I said, I have for a long time wanted to do it, and I just decided that I needed to take action to make it happen. And that reminded me actually of a story that happened when I was in college. A professor that I had, which it's funny because I can only remember a couple of lectures of my whole college career, but this is one of them that really has stood out to me. And this professor used to always come in and he'd lecture from his stool. And one day he came in late for class. All the students were all sitting there waiting for him, and he comes walking in, doesn't say anything, and he sits down on his little stool in front of the class, and he doesn't say anything. He's just sitting there, just like looking off into space. And I was kind of like, all the students were kind of looking around at each other like, okay, this professor has completely lost it. And you can see there, I've just highlighted across with the light blue. And he sat there for the longest time, and then he said, I wish that I had a vitamin C. And we all look at each other like, yeah, he really has lost it. And he sat there for several minutes again, and then he said it again. I wish I had a vitamin C. So I've done that white, and I'm pulling it down now to kind of blend that in a little better. And he repeated that over and over again for what seemed like forever. And then he sits there for a little bit, and he goes, I hope there's a vitamin C underneath that book. And he got up off of his stool, and he started walking around, looking around through the classroom. And sure enough, he had found these vitamin C's that he had planted there ahead of time. And the whole object of that little lesson was, a lot of times in life, you can sit and wish for something to happen. Wishing is passive. You're just sitting there, waiting for something to happen to you. You may want it, you may wish for it, but it's not going to happen. It takes getting up off of your seat, moving, doing something. That is hope. For a long time, I lost hope. And that gal I was talking to about why I started the show was I had to do something. I had to get my hope back. And that's what I did. I said, I'm going to do that show that I've been wanting to do for years. Here we are. So whether you enjoy it or not, I'm having fun doing it. So anyway, as you can see, we've gone through, highlighted across the top of the shell with some lights, which is the phthalo blue again and the titanium white. That is actually giving a nice little color pop onto the top of the turtle, which is the light coming that's shining down through the water onto him. The next thing I want to do is do a little bit more with the head itself. I want to lighten that up just a little bit with some more of the greens. And how do I get that? Well, I don't have any green, if you notice, on my palette. And for those of you that don't know mixing colors, we'll go through it, kind of show you how we do it. Take the phthalo blue, and it depends on the picture you're doing, but in this case I'm using the phthalo blue versus cobalt blue or any other blue because I've got it already used in the picture itself. So along with that, then we just take a glob of yellow, and I just kind of loosely mix it there. I can see I need more yellow in there. There we go. And maybe just a splash of white to lighten it up a little bit. And there we go. I don't have, you can see by the brush, there's yellow, white, green, it's all mixed on there. And that's going to, again, transfer onto the surface. And I'm going through just filling in some of those sections like we would have here with the orange, only I'm doing it with more of the greens. And I'm really liking how that's looking. It's giving it some more depth to it. And the greens, there are greens on the sea turtle itself, but what it's doing also is it's picking up a lot of the highlight colors from the water around it. So as you can see here, I've just kind of pulled that around, and there was a little section of yellow that popped in there, and rather than panic, I liked it. It looked good, so I kind of left it in there. So we're actually going to add just a little more yellow to that mix. And again, all of these things are things that you can do to your own taste. You don't have to follow exactly what I'm doing here. It's just more of a guideline. Each painting is your own. So, as they say, the first time that you buy a paint kit and buy paint and brushes, along with that comes your artist license. So there's no right or wrong. It's your picture. If you want this fuchsias and greens, any color you want, you just do it. So I'm just taking and now bringing in straight yellow on top of that green that I put down, which is making this more of a highlight. And as you can see, I'm not being real careful with that, with the paint itself when I'm putting it on the brush. There's a big globulin of paint on there, and I don't care. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of put it in place here, and then I'm going to take and blend it out a little bit as it's blending in with that green that I had put down earlier. You're still seeing some of that phthalo blue that we put in originally for where it was blocked in, even a little bit of the burnt sienna. You can see kind of all of those things that are popping through because I'm not covering up each section completely with one color. It's kind of a process of just adding them on, and the colors that are underneath come popping through, and that's what you're wanting. And you can see it's kind of taking shape there. He's starting to look a little more like he's got a personality. And I'm going to quickly clean out my brush here and get some straight white titanium, which again is going to be kind of relative terms straight because it's going to still have a little bit left on from the brush. I didn't take a whole lot of care in cleaning that brush out. And what I'm wanting to do now is I'm wanting to just to clean up around his eye. I want this to be really crisp along the top of the eye where it would be catching the light. Maybe some of these little in between sections here between the segments, maybe give those a little more color. Yeah, coming right down there, maybe over here a little bit. I want to come across just where his mouth is at, lighten that up just a little bit. And right underneath of his eye, I want to make that a little brighter as well. And I'm not doing one solid line, I'm just doing it in little segments there, because the light is just going to be hitting on little sections of it across there. So as we've done that, I'm really liking the way it looks. I think he's starting to take shape. So what I want to do now is I want to give him a little really good pop in his eye. The eyes are just really the soul of anything, whether it be a bird or a dog or a human. And so I don't know exactly what we're going to do as far as or the exact shape of whether they have a retina or any of those things. I don't know. I'm not a sea turtle person. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give it just a little glint. I just want to pop it with a little bit of color right there as a reflective. And I'm sure that whether its eye is darker or light, it's still going to be catching some of that surface light that's coming down through. And I really like that. I think that looks really nice. And then one more added thing I want to do with that eye is I want to get just a little bit around the edge here. And notice I'm just barely grazing the surface with just a little bit again of reflective light, and that's and that looks really good. I really like that. One thing I think that would make it look a little better is if we took and maybe even added some straight titanium white right across the top of that shell. I think it would make it look a little bit better, and we're going to soon find out. That's the fun part about painting. You know, you go at it, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay. Yeah, see, that looks better. It just gives a little more of a color pop on top of that light blue that we put on there. And I'll show you here too, really quickly. Let's say that I put it on back here, and I go, oh man, that doesn't look good at all. It's no big deal. Just take paper towel and just take and pull it off and start over. It's not, nothing is permanent. I mean, you can always come back and fix it. So don't feel like you've ruined something. You haven't ruined it. It may not be exactly what you wanted, so we just come back in and fix it. Blend it out, and there you go. Use my finger to pull that white down to keep that pop that's in there, but yet blend it into that lighter blue. Do the same thing right here on the leading edge of that shell. Yep, got a little too much paint there. I should take out stock and paper towels because I go through a boatload of them. But they're cheap, so that's good. There we go. And maybe just a hair bit on these little wrinkles that come across the top of the neck. Maybe just a few little highlights on there. It's looking good. Now, there's lots of different things I want to, I think we're going to call him pretty much finished up here. But a few things that you can do in your own painting if you want to change it. Maybe yours is really light up here. Maybe you want to take and darken this. So bring the phthalo blues straight into it. Maybe you want to put, some plants, maybe some sea onions or something that are coming up from the surf or from the bottom. Maybe you want to put in some little fish, some little Nemos or something that's in there with them. Everybody's got their own idea of what they want in their painting and what looks good to them. Maybe you want some sun rays coming in. And if you don't know how to do that, that's one thing that we'll be concentrating on here down the road, learning how to do that. But a lot of different things that you can do to make that painting your own. The last sea turtle that I painted, and I haven't done it, actually we've got a couple minutes, I think I'll show you how to do that. Just take this is a regular fan brush. You can use any kind of a brush you want to. You dip into some paint thinner, go into that titanium white, and there's still a little bit of that phthalo blue on there. So this is really runny. And again, I would suggest doing this, putting something down in your house so that your spouse doesn't get upset when you shoot paint all over the room. But basically, you just take your finger on it, and you're just splattering, just letting the paint go where it wants to. And I think it gives a neat effect, maybe almost like bubbles that are in the water itself. And I think it's really cool. This can be done for snow. I use it a lot of times when I'm doing ocean pictures because of the waves, the water that's splattering up from the waves. So as you can see, there's a lot of different things that you can do to make that picture your own. I think for right now, we're going to call that one good. And I hope you enjoyed doing it. I hope you will start painting yourself if you haven't been doing any. As this show gets going, maybe this will inspire you to pick up a paintbrush and some paint and paint along with me. We're going to be painting a lot of different things over the coming weeks. I think next week we're going to start in on a regular landscape. A lot of times landscapes are a good way to start beginning painting. And so I think we're going to start one next week. I think a really neat little scene that you'll enjoy doing with me. I want to leave you with something before I go. I saw this posted on Facebook, and at the end of the show, you'll see some credits. It has my email address and my Facebook page that's on there, and I would encourage your input. If you've got questions, please get a hold of me. I'd love to answer your questions for you. But I was on Facebook, and I came across this, and I had to share this. And it says that when the Japanese mend broken objects, they aggregate them, the damage, by filling the cracks with gold. They believe that when something suffered damage and has a history, it becomes more beautiful. So they take pots that have been cracked and broken. They take and fill them with gold to where they can be used again. That hit me so hard. I think there's so many people in this world, myself included, that have been broken, felt crushed, felt betrayed, felt like that pot of yourself has been shelved, put away, collecting dust, not being of any use to anybody. This show is not a religious show, but I have very strong beliefs, and I believe that God took this broken vessel and He put it together with gold so that I can be used again. If you're sitting there today, you feel broken, you feel like your life is worthless, that you don't have anything to offer anybody in the world, you do. God can fill those cracks of that broken pot, make you into something that you can be of use to the world and to the family, the friends around you. Don't give up hope. Remember, hope is action, like I said earlier. Get up, take a step forward. That's going to get you to where you want to go, and you're going to feel like that vessel that was broken is starting to heal, and you can be anything you want to be. You can do anything you want to do, and that's what this show is about, is to show you how to paint. Yes, that's part of it, but I want to be a help to you so that you can go out into the world, feel good about yourself, and want to do something. I thank you again for joining me. I appreciate you doing it. If there's people that you know that you think would benefit or enjoy my show, I would encourage you to tell them about me. This is an exciting venture for me, but hopefully even more so, it's an exciting venture for you. So until I get to see you again, have a great week and be inspired. Create something this week. Thank you again.